What's going on with DC? Movies canceled, TV shows canceled, actors fired. It's a bloodbath. Let's kind of break it down, see what's happening, see what we actually know, and maybe take a little bit of a look forward. Up next on this video from Bronzeville Comics. Hey there, comic community. This is Jim from Bronzeville Comics coming to you with another video. Before we get started, just if you get a response to one of your replies on my videos that says text me a Telegram, that is a scam. That is not me. I would never ask any of my followers to send me money for a prize. If you get a prize, you get it free. It's hit other YouTube comic book channels recently. I seem to be the latest victim. Don't fall for it. And don't fall for any other channels either. Also, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really helps the channel out. And I appreciate all the support that I've gotten from you guys over the last year and a half. In addition, follow me on Instagram at Bronzeville_comics. Whatnot, Bronzeville_comics. We do sales every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And coming up tomorrow, December 26th, we will be doing a slab sale, all slabs. Also, there's a link in the description. If you've not yet used Whatnot, you can click on that link and find out about and get a $10 off your first purchase. Also in the description is my email. You can ask me any questions you want there, and also a link to my eBay store. So before we get started, I'm going to do a couple of quick unboxings of things I've got. And then we're going to start talking about DC movies. And there's a lot to talk about. So first, that's interesting. Let's see, it's FedEx Express, but it's actually sent media mail. This was a book I think I got off of eBay. I thought the price was right. The pictures were not the clearest, but I decided to take a gamble on it. I don't know what this is packed in some strange box. It's like a recyclable pile. I believe there's a comic somewhere in here. Not as easy to extricate. I think I can get it out here. It's a bagged comic, and it is a newsstand copy of Marvel Tales #1, the first appearance of Peter Porker, this spectacular Spider-Ham. No backer board, so I'm going to have to... Interestingly, it's in a bag that said $1. I thought it looked pretty good, and that it could potentially be gradable. It's a pretty sharp copy. We'll see if that clean and press. Yeah, I think that's it. That is a potentially gradable copy, especially since it is a newsstand. That's pretty awesome. So, I think I got this for like $40. So, nothing major going on there. I'm going to try to safely put it there and put it in my very large to be pressed and cleaned pile. Also, just came in, you may recognize this. This tells us that it's the Comic Tom Mystery Mail Call. And see what we have in this month's offering. There was, I forget exactly what the exclusive was. I did luck out a couple of months ago and got a like $200 or $300 foil exclusive. That kind of paid for the mail call for several months. And that's really what you kind of hope for with a mail call. He does have some giveaways of graded books and such. So let's take a look. Always comes in this black plastic bag. We can reuse this Comic Tom mailer. Stuff is falling down here because my basement is a mess. I have a week off around Christmas, so I'm going to be doing some cleaning up, maybe some sorting of comic books, I hope. So we do get this Christmas Groot with the QR code. They used to include the print runs, but now it's in a QR code form, so I'm going to have to do that. And we'll take a look at this on the phone. And we'll see what the print runs of what we ended up with, if we got anything kind of exclusive. So the first book is Marvel Zombies Dead Days. I think I got a copy of this in a collection. I don't believe this has a great deal of value, even though it is Marvel Zombies. It's like a $5 to $10 book. So nothing enormous there. Not bad for one of their package. So I got this. This seems to be the Virgin variant of this Ninja Funk by David Mack. Right, this is the Virgin. So I'm going to have to look up if this has sold. It's not the metal cover. No. Just the regular cover, I do believe. I will take a look at that. We get this Peach Momoko Demon Days book. Or Demon Wars, I'm sorry. Demon Wars Momoko. And one just sold for $15. So does have a little bit of value. A TNMT card. Mr. Ista. That's another one of the exclusives. And then there's the kids' book, Wild Bull and Chipper. So nothing really pops out of this collection. I didn't get one of the rarer exclusives. Oh, there is another, I guess, postcard size art print in here. Or some of my trading cards. Oh, these. Oh, no, it's a comic tag. This is a digital comic. They haven't included these in several months. Forever Maps. So you can look at the get the digital copy of the graphic novel there. Might take a look at that. So that's what I picked up in the mail. Real happy with that Marvel Tales. That looks like a pretty high grade book. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't see anything immediately wrong with it. It's like a 9.8 of that book. And that's kind of the difference between 9.8 and everything else. And Newsstand 9.8 sold last month for $4.50. The direct sells for most recent sale in October was $300 at a 9.8 and $125 at a 9.4. So if that grade's pretty high, that'll be a nice plus there. So what I wanted to talk about was what's going on over at DC, and we're going to kind of take a look at it by character tiers. And so just to give a short recent history, Discovery bought Time Warner, so now we have Warner Brothers Discovery. David Zaslav was put in charge of the new company, and he wanted to kind of reboot everything and canceled a whole ton of things. A Wonder Twins project right before they were about to start filming. Batgirl, after it was already finished filming and just about in the can, ready to go, that's been shelved as a tax write-off. And the Green Lantern HBO Max series has been retooled, even though they had cast Alan Scott and Guy Gardner. They're going to shift focus, threw away the script, and going to go more Jon Stewart focused, evidently, and just kind of tearing everything down from the ground up. Now, we kind of have, and then James Gunn and Peter Safran were put in charge, and there's been some communication from Gunn about what he plans to do, but I think those plans are still being developed. So, in terms of DC characters, I think there are 4 things that make DC unique from Marvel. Number 1 is their Golden Age history. Marvel essentially has 3 superheroes from the Golden Age that continue to be relevant. Captain America and Bucky and Namor. Even the original Human Torch is not a character that really has been used since the Golden Age to any great extent. And a lot of the other characters that were developed during the Golden Age are fairly minor. And Marvel's reused them here and there in Liberty Legion and in backup stories, and in they did another series around 2009 with some of these characters. But none of them have really come to the fore to be major characters. But DC has a plethora of characters that start in the Golden Age. DC also, because I think of their Golden Age backgrounds, they have a much larger group of sidekicks, teenage heroes. That was a huge thing for DC in the 60s that Marvel didn't really replicate. It did happen in the Golden Age. Everybody had a sidekick in the Golden Age. Captain America had Bucky, Human Torch had Toro, Batman had Robin, Green Arrow had Speedy, so on and so forth. And then we got the Teen Titans starting in the 1960s, which has been a big property for DC since, and now currently has its own show on HBO Max. I think DC also has developed supervillain teams much more than Marvel, going way back to the Golden Age with the Injustice Gang and Injustice Society. And then in the 70s, you had the Secret Society of Supervillains. You had the Legion of Doom, which spun out from the Super Friends cartoons. So the gathering of villains is something that is much more unique to DC, and something that they did tease the end of, was it Justice League? Or Batman v Superman. Anyway, where basically Deathstroke showed up aboard Lex Luthor's yacht. Of course, that's all been scrapped. And I think the other thing they have more of is teams. Talked about the Titans HBO Max series. We also have a Doom Patrol series. The Legion of Superheroes, that future team, is a very vibrant team. And Marvel does have their share of teams too. I mean, obviously, you start with Fantastic Four and X-Men and work your way on down. But let's look. We have the Trinity in DC, right? The three big heroes. Now, they did say that they have a 10-year plan. I think DC should go with a 13-year plan, which would culminate in 2035 and the 100th anniversary of DC Comics. The problem with that, and this is something I do not have the expertise to handle, is by 2035, many of the characters, including Superman and Batman, will have had their trademarks or their copyrights expire. DC will still have the trademarks. Not sure how that's going to play out. We'll see how that works with Mickey Mouse over at Disney, but it does mean at least some aspect of Superman and Batman could potentially come into the public domain. But these are the iconic characters, the big three: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. Now, Superman we've seen in many incarnations on the screen, starting with movie serials back in the 40s, the Adventures of Superman TV show in the 50s, the Christopher Reeves films in the 70s and 80s, and then all the way up through Lois and Clark, Smallville, the Superman Returns, the Man of Steel, and currently the CW show Superman and Lois. Now, the biggest report is that Henry Cavill has been fired. He will no longer continue to be Superman in the DCU, is how we'll refer to it. The DC Universe is how they're promoting it going forward. And a lot of fans are upset by that, especially since there's been kind of a yo-yoing of this. We did see him at the post-credit scene of Black Adam, and that kind of promised something. That's a whole other aspect of this conversation. And James Gunn has indicated he wants to go in a younger direction. Cavill, I believe, is 39 years old by the time we get to the end of a 10-year project. Almost 50 years old. It might be better to start with someone new. Now, in general, look at this as kind of an Andrew Garfield situation. A lot of fans were disappointed that Amazing Spider-Man 3 never came to fruition. And Kevin Feige decided to make the agreement with Sony and reboot Spider-Man more as a high school kid with Tom Holland. I think the vast majority of Spider-Man and Marvel fans were pleased with that decision and the direction the character went, and then overwhelmed when Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield joined up in Spider-Man No Way Home. But here DC has to do a reboot. Now, the one thing I will say, Cavill definitely looks a part of Superman, and for a whole generation of fans, he has come to embody Superman. But he's played the character very sporadically over the last decade or so, right? It's been probably a decade. Is Henry Cavill a great actor? I mean, he doesn't have Academy Award nominations. He is more of a, I think, a physical presence to embody Superman. I never really bought the chemistry between him and Amy Adams' Lois Lane. And I have to admit, I'm not a big fan of the Zack Snyder stuff. He has his very supportive fans who are very vocal on the internet. If you're going to leave comments below, be respectful. Just a matter of difference of opinion. And I don't think we're not going back to a Snyderverse. Now we have Tyler Hoechlin, who plays Superman on the Superman and Lois TV series. That's like that Berlanti related stuff. Greg Berlanti produces the Arrowverse shows and also does produce Titans and Doom Patrol and some of the other TV stuff. We won't even get into the animated. So I think going with the younger Superman is definitely an interesting choice, because you kind of have to have him as the center of your universe, along with Batman and Wonder Woman. Now, Batman, it's been completely confusing. Is the Batman going forward going to be Michael Keaton? Is it going to be Ben Affleck? Like, Michael Keaton's in his 70s. Ben Affleck's well into his 50s. A long-range plan with these guys doesn't make sense. And they've reshot scenes. The movies that are coming out from DC imminently that are scheduled, the Shazam! Fury of the Gods, the Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Flash, and Blue Beetle, I think are going to be kind of Frankenstein movies, because they're going to be plotting, pasting plot holes and things that they would have explored and scenes that they shot but they now had to get rid of because, it's not going to lead anywhere if they showed them. So I think they're going to go with a younger Superman. Now, Batman, we've seen plenty of Batman in live action, from Kirk Alwyn to Adam West to Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck. Now, we did see Robert Pattinson. There was an indication that Matt Reeves did not have any interest in the Robert Pattinson Batman being kind of the cornerstone to build the rest of the superhero universe around. I think he wants to be more grounded and stay away from like the supernatural and science fiction aspects of it, and have it be something that is a little more realistic, a little more actually plausible in our reality. So will we see Clayface? Maybe, maybe not. Joker, Riddler, Penguin, Catwoman, all of those are reality-based characters. They're kooky, they're crazy. They all dress up funny, but they're not either science fiction or supernatural. So it seems like that avenue is kind of out. So they're going to have to go in a different direction with Batman. How will that turn out? It doesn't make sense to build something around a 70-year-old Michael Keaton Batman and have Batman be essentially retired. Sure, if you want to do a Batman Beyond kind of disconnected film, that's something different, and I think that's something that they probably will explore. But you want to build Batman from the ground up. The same thing with Wonder Woman. Now, with the Wonder Woman movie, it seems as though the script that Patty Jenkins had been working on did not fit with the vision they had for the DC universe going forward, which only makes sense because Jenkins wrote that at a completely different time with completely different parameters on where the character is going to fit into the larger scope of things. Gunn and Safran are doing something different. So that script probably didn't fit. Not that the script wasn't good. It could have been as good as the original or as bad as 1984. I don't know. But that it didn't fit with what they wanted to do with the character in the universe going forward. So those are your big three. One of the other things about the big three is the big three all have antecedents, predecedents. They all have characters that build in their family. Superman has Supergirl and Superboy, and Batman has Robins and Nightwing and Batgirls, and Wonder Woman does have Nubia and Wonder Girl. The Amazons, there was an Amazons project evidently being considered at one point. We have to assume that's all out the window, but you do need those three characters because they're going to be the cornerstone of your universe. And even though James Gunn likes the quirkier characters, these are the characters that people know. And if the movie is any good, people will come to the box office to see. It takes a lot more effort for, let's say, if we look at Marvel in particular, to get people to come out and see Guardians of the Galaxy, something that they didn't know anything about, but that did become a popular hit. It's easier if it's Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, things that are pretty well-known properties. So those are the big three. Then after that, I think DC, you have your secondary group of characters headlined by Flash and Green Lantern. A lot of iterations of both of them. And we do have a Flash movie coming out. It's unclear how they're going to, if they're going to use that as a launching pad to, they could just shoot a post-credit sequence and launch forward what they want to do going forward. Aquaman also fits into that billing, and Shazam. We'll put all of them in because, they all have announced projects or movies upcoming. And those are characters that have been able to carry their own individual titles year after year after year. With some cancellations here and there. And have been main cogs of the Justice League over the years. Ezra Miller would not be coming back as Flash. I think that's clear. Aquaman has a problem with Amber Heard still in the movie. A lot of people not fans of hers, obviously. And now Jason Momoa talks about being Lobo. That's only things that people are like kind of connecting tendrils together to say, ooh, Jason Momoa wants to be Lobo. James Gunn may want to go in a different direction with characters. But I do think those four characters are essentially important because they do round out the universe. They're similar in Marvel aspects to like Thor and Iron Man, and even Ant-Man. So, Daredevil. Those are characters in Marvel who always had their own series. The same with most of these characters in DC, plus Green Arrow. Then you get to the teams. So we have a couple of universes that we're dealing with. We have the Snyderverse. I think that's dead. We may take some of those characters and use those actors. Now, we also have the James Gunn Little Pocket universe, the Suicide Squad, and Peacemaker. That's going to continue, right? There's going to be something, either Peacemaker Season 2, something spinning out of it, something else spinning out of Suicide Squad. The biggest question there is Harley Quinn. What do they do with that? The other things that are going to, I think, exist are the standalone, the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson Batman movies and spin-offs of that, and the Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix Joker project. That made $1 billion as an R-rated movie, so they're not going to sabotage that box office, and it did win him a Best Actor Academy Award. Basically, where do we stand and where going forward? Now, so those four movies, including the Blue Beetle movie, which is still kind of a mystery. They put out a movie poster right before they announced all these other cancellations. It's coming out this August. So there are four movies, I believe, live-action feature films coming out from DC this year. The Shazam film, the Aquaman film, Flash, and Blue Beetle. What happens after that? That's the big question. And when are the announcements going to be made? Secondarily, you have the TV. Most of it's been canceled. Flash is going to wrap up. Stargirl signed off after its third season. All the other Arrowverse shows were canceled or nipped in the bud before they even got started. Supergirl wrapped up. Batwoman, Legends of Tomorrow. Then you have the HBO Max series, which are also produced, as I said, by Greg Berlanti, Titans, and Doom Patrol in particular. Where do those continue? Is there going to be something coming out of those? And the other thing that nobody's mentioned recently is that Keanu Reeves did sign on to play John Constantine again. So what do I think we have going forward? I think with the John Constantine signing, I think there's an indication, and this would not be something that would be probably far-flung for Gunn, who does have a horror movie background, going to the supernatural, the dark stuff. The Constantine, Swamp Thing, Dead Man, Demon, Phantom Stranger, Zatanna, etc. Justice League Dark, essentially. Is that going to be a property? Now, do you have a Justice League Dark without a Justice League? Who knows? The other thing is, which characters do they decide to create feature films around? do you hire Jason Momoa and play Lobo? People seem to be running with that idea. And what story do you eventually build up to? Now, the Arrowverse built up to Crisis on Infinite Earths. They had this 5-part crossover which kind of reset their universe, and essentially it was the death knell of the Arrowverse. It was filmed right before the pandemic. I think it came out right before the pandemic. They weren't really able to follow up after that with many of the shows, and then the shows started getting canceled just out of their own accord or when Discovery took over. So the Arrowverse essentially is not going anywhere. That's dead in the water. I would love to see something where they kind of wrap that up. Maybe they will save it for later on when they do some sort of potential crisis thing and they can bring those actors back. Because, again, there's a generation of fans that love Grant Gustin as Flash and Melissa Benoist as Supergirl and, Stephen Amell as Green Arrow, etc. But you got to have new blood with new casting of the characters to move the franchises forward. So I think some of the characters will return. Obviously, John Cena is going to be back as Peacemaker and a lot of his supporting characters. And the other actress I think we're going to see continue in the role is Viola Davis as Amanda Waller. Because I think there's a lot of connective tissue there. Obviously, Gunn has used her. So it's easy to develop plans around her. The question is, who play the big three? Younger Superman, where do they go with Batman, and do you retain Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman? One of the things I haven't heard anybody talk about is if you're going to have a long-term vision, you have to have your actors under long-term contracts, much like Marvel does, 7-picture deal, 9-picture deals, 11-picture deals, so that you can use them in multiple properties if you're going to have an interconnected universe. Look at the number of films that Robert Downey Jr. appeared in as Iron Man. Not only was he in the 3 Iron Man films and the 4 Avengers films, but he was in Civil War. He was in Homecoming. He was in other movies that served as connective tissue. He even had a post-credit sequence in The Incredible Hulk. And obviously, we saw Doctor Strange in the most recent Spider-Man film. So all of those interconnections are something that Marvel has done very well, but you need to have a plan. So when you sign an actor on for a role, it's not just signing on for one movie. You have to have the options to use them for probably the better part of the decade. Then there's the other situation, which is Black Adam and Dwayne Johnson. It seems to me that Dwayne Johnson wanted to use Black Adam to kind of propel DC motion pictures forward in his vision of Black Adam. It was not a huge success at the box office. Whether it made money or not is something for accountants to debate, not for me. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it, but I think in the whole, it's the fan reaction, the critical reaction, the box office was a little bit underwhelming. And there seemed to be some reluctance on the part of Johnson to continue with that role as a supporting character. Black Adam has never been one of the leads of DC. He is an antagonist primarily who became an anti-hero. And I think his place in DC Comics is a little bit similar to Namor in Marvel, right? He's the leader of his own civilization. He's been around forever. And he sometimes is a hero, sometimes is an anti-hero, and sometimes he's a full-out villain. And, will resort to whatever methods he needs. And Namor has carried his own comic book at times, but not always. Black Adam, it's really been over the last 12 years that he's been a more prominent character in DC Comics. So, I don't know where Black Adam's going to fit in. It seems like Gunn is trying to leave the door open to bring these actors back in some sort of crisis event in the future, that they would be from another reality that, could be included as part of the storyline. Then where do they go with the storyline? Okay, now what do they do with the Titans and the Doom Patrol? Are those series going to continue? Because to be honest with you, both of those properties, especially Titans, is something that could get motion picture treatment. But I think for the most part, they need to upgrade the actors they have on those shows. There's a difference between like kind of the TV actors and the big time movie stars that Marvel has been producing. Because face it, Marvel has brought in a lot of familiar faces, starting with Robert Downey Jr., but they've also produced and developed stars who were on the rise, but they did a great job in casting actors like Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, and Chadwick Boseman, who all had success in film roles before, but were propelled to superstardom and household name status based on their participation in MCU movies. And as it stands now, Marvel and DC are probably competing for the same young actors that people would want to use. I mean, hot actors like almost the entire cast of Stranger Things, Millie Bobby Brown and Sadie Sink, Jenna Ortega, who played Wednesday. Those are actors that are going to be in high demand, especially when you're trying to cast younger roles. So, people in their 20s that can continue with the characters for 10 or more years. So that I think is going to be interesting. But I think what we're in the midst of now is DC's trying to put all their cards in order, but they can't show us those cards, right? Because they have to develop properties, get talent behind those writers and directors and actors. So we'll see what the plans are going forward. I'm still hopefully optimistic that DC will be able to put it together because I have so many DC comic books that can be keys. And I've done videos before on which characters I think are most undervalued right now, most interesting to use going forward. We saw, I think, a lot of potential in the Black Adam film. Another character who has been a mainstay of DC Comics since 1940 is Hawkman. And I think we saw a really good Hawkman in the Black Adam movie, but a very unexplored Hawkman because he has a very complicated, convoluted backstory in the comics. How would you adapt that for motion pictures and television? And the other question is, how is DC going to use television, I guess namely HBO Max, to supplement the films, much like Marvel has used Disney Plus? Now, Marvel's kind of switching the way that they're looking at things because the TV shows, were able to get viewers right away because people were desperate for entertainment when WandaVision first came out in the midst of the pandemic and everybody was stuck at home and just waiting week after week for a new episode. Have we reached glut? Maybe. Market saturation? I don't know. I mean, I still enjoy it, but it takes a lot of time to watch all of the comic book related content that's out there. So I think we're going to have to take a wait and see approach to DC. Trust that James Gunn has a vision. But, and I said this about Zaslav in previous videos, he has to prove that he can produce content because all of they have done is canceled content right now. We haven't seen anything really, other than maybe a kernel of an idea. We haven't seen anything solid being pitched by the new folks at Discovery. The first step was to hire Gunn and Safran. Fine, they did that. Now we have to start seeing results. We have to have things that we're going to look forward to, and I guess that will be in 2024. Where we'll get notices maybe in 2023 of things that are upcoming. But what do you think? Are you displeased, distraught, or happy that they're kind of moving in a new direction? Would you have hoped they would continue the Snyderverse? Do you think Gunn will do something completely different? Would you like to see it spin out of the Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson universe, which seems unlikely? Should the Rock have a bigger place at the table with Black Adam? All of these are opinions that anybody can have. I have my opinions, my thoughts. Let me know what you think. I would love to see, we were talking about the idea of teams, and I think rather than building to maybe necessarily a big bad in a phase of DC storytelling, is kind of build up the supervillain team. You have Lex Luthor, you have the Joker, you have Deathstroke, you have all of these great villains that you could put together and really be something formidable for the Justice League to battle. Obviously, the easy choice is to do a Darkseid story because he's a powerful villain that everybody can team up against. Little similar to Thanos in regards to the fact that Jim Starlin, when he created Thanos, said he was inspired by Darkseid. So you have a lot. You have New Gods that they can explore. You have Legion of Superheroes that they can explore. You have Justice Society of America that they can explore. Teen Titans, obviously, is something you can explore. But I think over the course of 10 years, you need to set the groundwork. Do you just have a middle-aged Batman show up with Robin being Damian Wayne? Or do you develop Dick Grayson, have him become Nightwing? Obviously, I've done a lot of the Red Hood, Jason Todd stuff and the Nightwing stuff on the Titans TV series. Where do you go with the storylines? Right? They've done a lot on the TV end. How long do you wait to do Crisis on Infinite Earths? I say wait until 2035, the 100th anniversary of DC Comics and the 50th anniversary of Crisis on Infinite Earths. That would be the time to do it. So, in the comments, let me know your thoughts. I'm just one guy here who's, got some ideas, but there's news coming out every day. We'll try to keep you abreast of it on the channel. And in the meantime, you can take a look at a couple other videos here. And this is Jim saying until next time, enjoy your comics.